to thank you, who are here to provide some perspective after the outcome of the election. I'm going to introduce all of the speakers at once, and they will go in order. Gina McCarthy, who serves as managing co-chair for America's All In, former EPA administrator and White House climate advisor. We are also going to be joined by Governor Jay Inslee from the great state of Washington, who also serves as co-chair for America's All In and leadership with U.S. Climate Alliance. And Mayor Justin Bibb, Mayor of Cleveland, Ohio, and Chair of Climate Mayors. With no further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Gina McCarthy for a few remarks.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth, and thanks for joining everybody today. I know we're all concerned about the outcome of the election, but I want to be clear with all of you that no matter what Trump may say, the shift to clean energy is really unstoppable, and our country is not going to turn back. Our coalition is bigger, more bipartisan, better organized, and fully prepared to deliver climate solutions, to boost local economies and drive the kind of climate ambition we need. We will not let Trump stand in the way of giving our kids and grandkids the freedom to grow up in healthier and safer communities. We all just have to stand ready to hold this administration accountable to do its job of protecting our people, our environment, as well as our planet. And you may remember, America is All In actually exists because cities, states, businesses, and organizations, well, they all stepped up the last time. In 2017, Mike Bloomberg and Governor Jerry Brown launched our coalition in response to then President Trump's decision to withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Agreement. But thanks to the leadership of Mike Bloomberg and our co-chairs, America is All In is now the largest ever coalition of local leaders committed to fighting climate change. So we'll be doing everything we can to stop efforts to undermine our progress. We will be doubling down on local action, pushing for more private sector investments, and working to fill the federal leadership gap to meet our country's global commitments. And we're going to stand ready to work with both Republicans and Democrats to protect the Inflation Reduction Act and keep our federal agencies active, safe, and secure from those who would weaken our economy. So let's stay focused on advancing clean energy while eliminating our dependence on fossil fuels that puts everything we care about at risk and in jeopardy. So let's not forget that we still need to invest big in communities across every state so everyone can benefit from a clean energy economy. And we need to make sure to move fast. So as countries gather for COP29, governments have to take responsibility to fund basic human needs like food, water, and clean air and infrastructure while we fully embrace this clean energy economy that we are moving forward with, and hopefully all countries will. Because with the right combination of incentives, we can really do great. Look, we already have existing technologies, products, and processes and policies that can and will drive a worldwide transition to clean energy. And with so many more innovations waiting in the wings, we just need to put what is already possible to work for us. So let's remind ourselves that our country has had the most significant investment in rebuilding our economy over the past 4 years than anyone could ever have imagined. Together, the Inflation Reduction Act, bipartisan infrastructure law, and the CHIPS and Science Act have all led to $910 billion in public and private sector investments all across our country. It's been amazing. We have had 6 historic quarters of investment in the construction of private manufacturing facilities. So for the first time in decades, communities that need and deserve a break are seeing great jobs, lower energy bills, better transportation, efficient and more resilient housing, and yes, more green spaces and protected natural resources. You know, the bulk of these projects are operating in Republican districts. Let me remind you, in Republican districts. That means many, if not most, Republican members of Congress are joining in ribbon cuttings and groundbreaking ceremonies, because it is undeniably true that clean energy is good for business, good for all Americans. And any attempt to roll back the Inflation Reduction Act is simply a fool's errand, because it's driving incredible benefits. The IRA alone, more than 330,000 new good paying union jobs in clean energy. We've been outpacing with clean energy the economy overall. It's been amazing. So let's stay focused. Let's stay positive on supporting state and local leaders who actually can deliver programs, policies, and investments that will ensure the people that all of us serve can adapt and be resilient in the face of today's unavoidable climate challenges. Let's give communities authority, power, and private sector resources so they can actually do and make real change that matters in people's lives. Together, we can help people see the power that a clean energy economy can deliver for safer, healthier, and more secure communities. Thanks so much. Oops, I forgot who's coming next.
Governor Inslee, over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I always get pumped up in the morning listening to Gina for good reason. Listen, our message is simple. Our progress is going to continue unabated in our nation, because we have states that are going to drive this continued innovation and job creation, which is happening big time. Amongst many of the groups that are allied with this, we have the U.S. Climate Alliance. We represent 24 states, all of whom are moving forward. And I'll tell you something, Donald Trump cannot stop us. To a considerable degree, he can't even really slow us down. He's kind of a speed bump when it comes to state action. And states are going to continue, as mine have, in this upward climb of a clean energy economy. And the reason is that we understand destiny is in our hands, and the tools to get this job done are in our toolbox. And these states are moving forward big time in developing these clean energy jobs. Now, I know that there's concern given the presidential election, but I got some really good news from my state in the state of Washington. We're the evergreen state, we're the ever forward state. And both of those things are serving us very well in growing thousands of clean energy jobs and restraining carbon emissions. And 2 days ago, we had what I think is one of the most consequential elections when it comes to climate in our nation's history. And that is that there were some millionaires trying to repeal our Climate Commitment Act. Our Climate Commitment Act is a broad-based carbon restraint cap and invest system. There was an initiative put on our ballot to try to totally repeal it, and our wise citizenry rejected it 62 to 38, 62 to 38. We gave it one of the great thrashings of all time. The climate deniers, those who don't understand the economic benefits of clean energy, got thrashed at the hands of the citizens in my state. And that is a beacon of light, I believe, to the rest of the nation to demonstrate the broad public support for these measures moving forward. And it is broad. We had one of the greatest coalitions in my state's history, including labor and business, environmental community groups, communities of color, tribal nations that thumped this effort to go backwards. So we are not going backwards on these efforts. Donald Trump is not going to put his hands on our efforts, and we are going to continue. And I may note the economic success has been stunning. Gina has talked about this. But it's really interesting. The 24 states in our U.S. Climate Alliance, their economic performance, because in part they have acted against climate change gases and built clean energy jobs, have a larger economic growth in those states that are not in this alliance. We are proof that this is an economic growth strategy. And we also, I think, should take from our success in our Climate Commitment Act victory 2 days ago, the fact that Donald Trump is not going to succeed in going backwards on the Inflation Reduction Act. Because what our success showed, that once people have the benefits of good economic growth policies and climate gas reduction policies, You can't take it away from them. He is not going to be able to grab from these states the benefits, the job creation that ultimately is being occasioned. So he's got some lessons ahead of him. And that means we are not going backwards federally, and we are going forward in the states and the counties and the cities big time. So I'm happy to be part of this alliance. And I want to say we're even better positioned. We demonstrated that in the first Trump administration. We kept moving forward in my state, even though during the Trump first administration. And we are better positioned to continue this progress now because we have more governors under Democratic control. We had 15 then, we've got 23 now. We had 6 state legislators then, we have like 15 now. We are better positioned to continue the progress we made in the first. We're going to continue it in the second. So I think it was John Paul Jones said, don't give up the ship. We have not yet begun to fight. We're going to keep making progress on this. So thanks for your interest in this. And I would love to know who I'm introducing, but I don't know who the next speaker is. So someone else is going to have to make that decision.
Governor, it's me. No worries.
All right. Well, I like listening to you, so let them have it.
Well, I want to just pick up on Governor Inslee's comments. As chair of Climate Mayors and as the mayor of the great city of Cleveland, Ohio, we stand ready to protect and defend and to make the business case on why local climate action is so important now more than ever. As chair of Climate Mayors, I represent a bipartisan network of nearly 400 mayors all across the country that are dedicated to leading on the climate crisis with the urgency that this moment demands. And mayors from all corners of the country are sending a message that we are steadfast in our commitment to accelerating local climate action and meeting our established national goals under the Paris Climate Agreement during the second administration of President Donald Trump. Now, as climate mayors, we must be pragmatic. As we enter the Trump-Vance administration, we will need to continue to fight for legislation that benefits hard-working Americans and protects the most vulnerable populations by engaging key partners, policymakers, and stakeholders in our fight for just and innovative legislation. But we also need to build coalitions within our communities and talk more to everyday Americans about why good climate policy is good economic policy. And I think it's important to underscore that point. This is about America's economic competitiveness. This is about safety. This is about national security. And all these things matter now more than ever. And our ambition is not going to stop. We're going to continue to fight for good local climate action because climate mayors, we've been here before. And under the first Trump administration, we grew into a big tent, bipartisan organization that we are today. When we started in 2017, there were just 30 mayors. Now we have nearly 400 mayors all across the country dedicated to this fight. So we're fired up. We are ready to go to make the business case on why these investments matter, why we need to continue to work across the aisle to meet the moment, and why our cities will help lead the fight to protect, defend, and to make sure that the green energy transformation, that these benefits are broad-based, but also that we meet the moment to address our climate crisis now more than ever.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bibb, Governor Inslee, and Gina. I think it's quite clear that the subnational movement is strong and ready for whatever comes. We do have a couple of questions that have come up, and I'd love to read out at least one or two. We have a couple of minutes to have those addressed. And if others have additional questions, please do send those our way in the Q&A function. I think the first one is particularly resonant for you, Governor Inslee. How do we work with state and on ballot initiatives to make the work faster? Just talking about sort of that state level action. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, by building broad coalitions to support these, and that's why we were successful, we basically were able to get every part of our society working on this issue. And some surprising members of our coalition, many businesses, including British Petroleum, as a matter of fact, to have supported our initiative to get them working with our tribal communities, with communities of color who have been the greatly disadvantaged people from a health perspective, to our pediatricians and oncologists. You just got to embrace every single part of your society, but every part of your society is benefited by clean energy policies and damaged by carbon emissions. And so I think to try to create those broad-based approaches, number one. Second, what was particularly powerful in our success is basically getting people to understand the benefits that our policies are getting them. Air filtration systems for schools so kids can breathe, electric vehicle subsidies for lower income people, heat pumps for senior citizens, free bus rides for our children, electric ferries for ferry passengers. We had benefits essentially for every Washingtonian had something that when people tried to take away these tangible benefits, that was something Americans and Washingtonians revile. And so getting people to understand these tangible benefits of a policy, and frankly, that is why a cap and invest system is so powerful at the ballot box and in the policy forum, because it simultaneously reduces carbon pollution, weds citizens to the benefits of this climate policy, and is supportable politically. And that's why I'm very hopeful our great victory will be a shining light of inspiration across the country. And I believe it will be. There were several other states looking at these things in the present, and more will, New York, Maryland, and others. And so I think people can look at this and have high confidence moving forward. The other thing is that, you know, you always want to skate where the puck is going, as Gretzky said. And where the puck is going is more demand for more action against climate change. Every year that goes by, we have more and more floods. We have more and more fires. The fires are raging in California now. Asheville, North Carolina got it a couple weeks ago. And as we continue to be lashed by this, our citizens' demands for action is only going to grow. And a recognition of the job creation opportunities and economic benefits and profits for that matter in clean energy is only going to grow. So you always want to go as a leader to where the world is going, and it's going in a direction of demanding clean energy action. So I feel very bullish on it. Again, I want to come back to this issue too. 80%, 85% of what we're doing in Washington State, Donald Trump can't stop us. He can't even slow us down. So he can't touch our cap and invest bill. We're immune from that. And I want to thank the founding fathers who created this Constitution that apparently had the foresight to know someday there might be a president who's totally scientifically illiterate, who's a sociopathic, narcissistic personality, but they created states so that we could continue progress through our states rather than depending on who's in the White House. So I'm just very optimistic about our continued statewide. By the way, Elizabeth, tiny little friendly amendment. You mentioned us as subnationals. We consider ourselves supranationals because we can act faster than our federal governments around the globe. And I'm going to Azerbaijan next week to spread that message.
Well noted, Governor Inslee, and I knew you were going to make that point, so I should have called it.
No, you were just the straight
I was
person.
setting you up for it. This one might, Gina, I wonder if you might be able to take this next question. You know, I think it's critically important to think about both where the America's All In coalition started, but also where we're headed. And the question is focused on how the last Trump administration was a galvanizing function for this movement. How do you think of that now? And sort of the importance of expanding the big tent and making sure that we bring in partners from a variety of different backgrounds.
Well, yeah, thanks for tossing this to me, Elizabeth. You know, I think it's essential to do two things. One is that I think there's a tendency for us to feel a little bit exhausted by Trump. The first time around, we were active and engaged immediately. And I can speak just maybe for myself that I was so discouraged with the outcome that it's taken me more than 10 minutes to start realizing that I've got to get out of the doldrums and really start to move. And I think the thing that gives me the most encouragement, and I mentioned this, is that I think we have what we need to succeed. I think there's challenges that we're going to have to face because we know that under a Trump administration, our agencies are going to be threatened. My poor EPA is going to be under the gun, but it's not just that. There's threats to FDA, to FEMA, and all of those things can bring you down. But the big challenge is to make you just stand up and fight. Just get active. And one of the things that's most invigorating for me is that sometimes you got to recognize that the federal government's not everything. Look, I worked with state and local levels. They have power, just like I almost said President Inslee. Maybe that's the case at some point. Governor Inslee. Listen to him. Look at what he can do, how we can engage people at state and local levels. So you have to do a couple of things that are hard. One is to stay hopeful. And the second is to branch out and start working in your local communities, in your states, with every organization you can find to give people the hope they need to succeed, because it's the only thing that ever has allowed us to progress. And none of us are on this call because we want to give up. We're here to make change happen, and we can still do that. Thanks.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for that. My colleague just put an open letter for the America's All In Coalition in the chat. This is something that we are hoping that our partners can sign on to show the strength and the breadth of the coalition. Mayor Bibb, the next one is question. I'm combining a couple because there are so many good ones here, but in how you spoke about safety and security and national security, I wonder if you could speak a bit to that on how the strength of that message in broadening the tent, bringing in new mayors. How do you speak to your counterparts to really encourage them to lean in this space, join climate mayors, join the cause?
Well, first, I want to just talk about domestic safety. When you think about the fact that in cities like Cleveland, we have a high number of traffic deaths that are predominantly located in communities of color, that is a climate issue. When you think about the fact that violent crime in our cities across the country are occurring on heat islands, that is a climate issue. And so we want to make America safe again. It's important that we have a national agenda, especially with governors and mayors leading the way, focused on the intersection of addressing climate change and also public safety. In terms of national security, I don't want to cede our innovation in EVs to China. I don't want to cede our innovations in the green energy transformation to Europe. I want companies like Cleveland Cliffs to lead the way, and Sherwin-Williams, and Parker Hannifin, and Lubrizol. I want them to be globally competitive. And so, but for these investments, we are going to cede our power as a superpower to other foreign counterparts. And so we must protect, defend, but also make the case to voters on why addressing climate change is so important, on why the Inflation Reduction Act investments are so important, because those investments don't scream Democrat or Republican. To me, they scream good quality jobs. They scream protecting America's national security, and they scream ensuring that America has the best damn economy in the world. And that's how we have to talk about these important investments.
Thank you so much. I feel like that is a wonderful place to leave it. Governor Inslee, Gina, Mayor Bibb, if there is anything else you'd like to say, please jump in. Otherwise, Gina, looks like you're on the road.
Yeah, I'm on the road. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you to everyone. Thank you to
We'll
everyone.
get 'em.
Our information, our general email address from the America's All In Coalition is in the chat. Reach out. There's a lot of work to do, and we're ready to do it with all of you. So thank you so much for joining.